Well, thank you again for staying with us on Sunrise Daily this morning. Well, one of the issues that's really been on the heart of the federal government in recent time has been that of revenue, saving costs and making more in order to provide more for people and make life a lot easier to live. And this morning, we will be speaking with the Honorable Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Architect Olamilekan Adegbite. He's in our Abuja studio, and he's definitely working at that. Honorable Minister, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I think it's only fair to begin with what has got your blood boiling and got you very, very excited in recent time, which is the Ajaokuta Steel Company. Could you please bring us up to speed? We are aware of the partnership with Russia and all of that, but could you please bring us up to speed? What's happened so far?
Thank you so much and good morning. On Ajaokuta, the federal government had tried several methods in the past to revive Ajaokuta Steel Company, which has failed. So we've come to the conclusion that the best thing for us to do now is to go back to the original partners, which was the Soviet Union in those days. It was mostly the Russian Federation and Ukraine in the Russian Federation that built Ajaokuta and some other partners. Now we've gone back to them, but this time we're doing it strictly on a government-to-government basis. Where we are now is that an MOU has been drawn up. It's being considered on both sides. Hopefully, we'll sign the MOU very soon. But we're not stopping on that. We've done a technical audit of Ajaokuta, which, of course, was also requested by the Russians, and we have sent to them. The good thing is that everything is looking good. All the raw materials that we need for steel production at Ajaokuta can be sourced locally within Nigeria. In the past, the problem had been with coal. There's a particular coal that's used in steel production. It's called coking coal, not the ordinary coal. We couldn't find it in Nigeria, but now with technology and all that, we found a solution, and we do not have to import any raw material for Ajaokuta. All we need is for the experts to come in and the funding. And of course, like I said, 2.5 years, 3 years, the furnace, the blast furnace will be working, and all the materials on ground will start producing liquid steel. And of course, that will lead to a lot of multiplier effects for us. So that's where we are as we speak. Hopefully, early January, we should be able to sign the MOU. And then, of course, a company will be selected on the Russian side. That is, the government will nominate a company. They have their processes. And of course, that company will come down. The funding is already in place, and then we could begin to start work on Ajaokuta.
Talking about that funding, we understand that something in the region of $8 billion has been spent since 1979 when the issue was broached in the first place over time. What are we looking at now in terms of funding, given that there is a lot of talk about the fact that we do not really have enough resources to fund our budget and do many other things that would make life easier for people. So in terms of budget, what are we looking at to get it off the ground?
First, let me debunk that claim. There are a lot of figures being bandied about. Some say 5 billion since 1979. You remember that it was President Shehu Shagari that started Ajaokuta. Some will say 7, 8 billion. Sincerely, I do not know the exact figure that had been expended on Ajaokuta so far. But the policy this time of the government, President Muhammadu Buhari, as much as it desires Ajaokuta to work, is that we're not going to put in the public fund into Ajaokuta anymore. So as the budget you're talking about, no money is coming out of the budget for this project. It's being funded by Afrexim Bank and the Russian Export Center, equivalent of an Exim Bank in Russia. It's called the Russian Export Center. So these two people are going to fund it, and they're going to be repaid from the operations of Ajaokuta. So if you like, you could say that it's not going to cost the public fund, and we're not going to take any money from the public fund to do this project. So it's going to pay for itself. They're going to advance the fund and, of course, operate and realize their profits, and, of course, it reverts back to Nigeria. So that's the model we're working on this time.
Okay, now aside iron ore, which is used to make steel, I understand we have over 40, other minerals in the country. But before we get there, I'd like to get clarification on, the issues raised by the National Assembly concerning, the trip to Russia, the agreements that were signed, saying the National Assembly was not exactly consulted. So what is the state of that? How are you handling the response of the National Assembly to your trip to Russia?
Well, Ajaokuta is a very emotional subject to every Nigerian. The failure as a country for about 40 years, we could not get Ajaokuta off the ground. So, of course, everybody gets emotional when Ajaokuta is mentioned. Of course, we're working with the members of the National Assembly, especially I have 3 committees in the National Assembly. The 2 portfolio, that's minerals and steel, is combined in the Senate in 1 committee. But in the House of Rep, we have the committee on solid minerals and, of course, a committee on steel. The 3 of them, of course, are carried along. What we're doing so far is actually the prerogative of the executive. And at the right time, of course, when we need to let them have the MOU and say, like I said, the MOU is a draft as we speak. We've sent the draft to Russia. We've considered it. So both sides are looking at it. At the time we signed the MOU, which is a loose agreement, really, we availed the National Assembly the opportunity to look at the MOU. But a proper agreement, which is going to be worked out in detail, will involve everybody. Because the agreement is going to take care of the costing of all the work that will be done and the number of years that they will need to make their money and the profit before reverting back to Nigeria. Of course, everybody will be carried along. So we have a very good working relationship with the National Assembly. Even on Monday, we had a workshop, and the chairman from the House of Assembly, the 2 chairmen for solid minerals and for steel, they were with us at the workshop on Monday, which we had at Sheraton. So we're working very well with the National Assembly, and I don't see any conflict there.
So let's talk about the over 40, minerals in the country. We're looking at a time where the government is trying to diversify, looking at non-oil revenue away from crude oil. And I understand that mines and steel sector should play a key role in that. We have, reports saying that at this point it's less than 1% of a GDP that the sector is contributing. But we understand that there's a lot of potential in that sector. So what is your goal? On one hand, how much revenue on one hand can you generate from that sector? And what is the goal, short-term goal, perhaps medium-term goal? And, well, let's stay there before we go to the long-term goal.
Okay. Yes, the mineral sector, solid mineral sector, has the potential actually to surpass oil and gas. We've got a lot of minerals, especially the minerals of the future. We've got cobalt in this country. We've got lithium. These are the minerals that are going to be very useful in the future, because now everybody is going off fossil fuel and we're going into electric cars, artificial intelligence. These are the minerals that will be used in the industry. Nigeria has got plenty of that. We've got nickel. So solid mineral has the potential. But like you said, the short-term goals, for instance, in this country, in the oil industry, barite, and I think I said this before, we use a lot of barite in drilling. So Nigeria spends hundreds of millions of dollars annually importing barites from outside the country. But Nigeria's got plenty of barite. The problem had been that, look, we couldn't take the barite from the mines to the acceptable quality that the oil contractors want. Now, the short-term goal, one of the things that we've done is that we got a consultant on this who's going to help us take the barite from the mines through the processes. Of course, value addition, you're going to mill it. It has to come to a certain percentage in the milling. And of course, then you're going to bag it, make sure it's attractive, and of course, take it to the market. And we've got the cooperation of the NNPC, the Local Content Board in Nigeria, that, look, if you're able to meet the standard, of course, we'll begin to supply the market, ultimately to substitute importation in this case. So when we get to a certain level and we are able to produce enough quantity to satisfy local demand and possibly export to our neighbors in the sub-region, I mean, this will save Nigeria a lot of money, a lot of foreign exchange that will be conserved. Besides that, there is a lot of employment that will be created in the value chain. One, we're going to employ more people in mining the barite because now the miners are discouraged. They can't meet the value and the quality that's required by the industry. So we're going to employ more people there. There's opportunity now for investors to give us the mills. And of course, there's opportunity for investors in bagging, and then before we take it to the market. So that's one of the short-term goals that we're working on. Also, we have this gold buying policy with the CBN. Right now, people are just mining gold in Nigeria and taking it out. There's a particular place in Dubai. It's called Zamfara Gold. That's what they call that area. All the gold in that area comes from Zamfara. That is why government has put a cap on mining in Zamfara for some time. Even before I came into office, we are just planning to lift that ban and reopen, and of course organize security around that. There's a lot of gold going out of this country illegally. We are trying to streamline that in the short run, so that government can realize its due from that. But furthermore, we're also working on the fact that don't take out raw minerals out of Nigeria. So we're encouraging, which was the workshop we had on Monday, is actually the downstream value chain. That's what the workshop is all about. It will create jobs for our people. What we are trying to do is that, look, you mine gold and you take out gold like that in the raw form. We're going to start refining gold locally and have gold bars. And the CBN actually is into this. The CBN will be buying gold bars, that is, some of Nigerian foreign reserve will be in gold bars rather than everything being in USD. So these are some of the low-hanging things that they're working on. And on the long run, Ajaokuta is one of the long-run things we're going to do. At the same time, we want to invite the major mining corporations like the Rio Tinto, the BHL. We want them to come into Nigeria, but that will take a while. Nigeria is not considered a mining destination for now, but we're working on all the right indices. One, we are doing a lot of exploration so that we can present what we call bankable data to these people. The bankable data will tell you that, look, we've got gold at this location. The gold is at this depth. We have this so much quantity there. And of course, they can do the valuation immediately. And of course, that will attract them because now it's worth their while to invest in that mining venture. So these are some of the things we are doing to attract investors, at least the big players. Right now, we have a lot of artisanal miners. We're trying to discourage child labor. You have a lot of women involved in mining. And this is more like, it's a traditional thing. A lot of people, because grew up in that environment, their parents were doing this, so it was just natural for them to do the same thing. But we're trying to get the children out of mining. Child labor, we're trying to eliminate that. We started a pilot proof of concept scheme, a local government in Kano State. We provided some simple implements like wheelbarrow, shovels for the women. And at the same time, we bought furniture for the school, classroom furniture. So since then, we've seen an improvement in enrollment for children in that school. And at the same time, the women, the yield has improved. Because either though, they were just using hands and some small implements like O's. But we gave them wheelbarrow, we gave them shovel to make life easier for the adults. And at the same time, now provide furniture in the school so that children could go back to school. So these are multivarious ways that we're working to improve lives of people.
Yeah. Honorable Minister, you broached an issue the other time. I'd like you to please expatiate a little more on it. You talked about the illegal mining going on in Zamfara, but there are also reports that we're aware of that Zamfara is not the only place that we're having cases of illegal mining in Nigeria. So first, take us through, how are you dealing with this? Because we understand that some of the locals actually work in cahoots with some foreigners who come into the nation to explore some of these things and, as you said, take them out raw. So how are you managing this challenge in your sector?
Well, thank you so much. You're right on that score. It's not only in Zamfara, but Zamfara became so bad because gold is one of those things that, readily you can get it and then you can sell like that. The market is readily there. They take it to South Africa or they take it to Dubai and all that. So, and Zamfara being very rich in gold, so that's why it was heightened in Zamfara. But then we need to define these things. We have people who call artisanal miners, small-scale miners, and of course, the one you call illegal miners. The artisanal miners, and though they are not sanctioned, that is, they don't have licenses to do what they're doing. But these are people who are just trying to earn their daily living, subsistent mining. They get something today, they sell it. In fact, these people are cheated because they don't know the value of what they got. They just sell it to the next buyer. And of course, they have enough money to feed their family for the next few weeks or a few months. These people have been categorized as artisanal miners. And of course, there are some people with small-scale operation, you know, very little implements and all that, who are also working, though not sanctioned. These are the people we are trying to bring into the fold. There's a department in the ministry. It's called Artisanal Mine and Small-Scale Miner Department. We're trying to bring these people in the fold, teach them the right method, let them realize that, look, it's best for them to come into the fold, pay into government what is due to government, and government, of course, has a fund to help them, and of course, so that they can improve their skills and improve their working condition. So this is a continuous process where we are working with the World Bank. There's this project where we do remote sensing. We identify those spots where they're working. Then we go there, we try and get their bio data, and of course, try and bring them into the fold. That is on the artisanal and small scale. The illegal miners are mostly foreigners. These people come into the country, and of course, it's particular to some people. I don't want to mention. They come into the country under the guise of something else because they get their visa and working permit for something else. But they are the ones who go to this community. They use some of our people, some of these artisanal miners, to do the mining. They realize the product, and of course, they take them out of the country. That is why President Muhammadu Buhari, even before I came to office, set up this presidential task force. It comprises, I chair that task force. It has the chief of army staff. It has the DG of State Department, DSS. We have the Inspector General of Police. You have the National Security Advisor. And I have the Controller General of the civil defense people. These are the people at the apex of that presidential surveillance task force. And of course, this task force has been able to curb, at least to a large extent, this illegality in the country. I must say that it's difficult to take it out totally. Just about 2 weeks ago at the NEC meeting, the Ondo State governor was telling me about an occurrence in Ondo State. Some foreigners, like I said, I don't want to mention them, some foreigners will come with helicopters at night, and then with blazing lights, they bring a lot of lights, they do some mining. We found out these are some very rich gemstones that they mine there, and before dawn, they take off again and all that. You see, it's difficult for somebody like us. We have federal mines officers in the states to really know what's going on like that. But the villagers were able to alert through a system the state governor. And of course, we are working on that to curb them. So it's really a task that's ongoing. The Presidential Surveillance Task Force is actually an intervention thing. We are trying to get something that will be continuous, but it's actually very costly as of now. So we are collaborating with state governors to help us with the security. They are the chief security officer in the states. So we're trying to work with them. We have our differences on how to go about this because they also want access to mining. They feel they should control it. Well, like I said, in the Constitution of Nigeria, mining is on the exclusive list. So it's actually a federal government business. So we're working with the state governors as well. At the last NEC meeting, a committee was set up. Dr. Fayemi, who was my predecessor in office, is the chairman of that committee. And then there are about 5 other governors and myself in that committee, is to work out a solution so there won't be so much conflict between the state and the federal government on mining. So these are all efforts that's geared towards getting rid of the legal miners and, of course, assuring ourselves of security.
Yeah, Honorable Minister, you just broached my next question, which is the partnership with states. So on the one hand, of course, what you have said is correct, that all of the authority over solid minerals in Nigeria is reposited in the federal government. But the federal government doesn't have land, okay? And the states are the ones who control the land. So shouldn't the states also have a measure? Well, we agree it's something that's already in the laws. Isn't there a way to work with the states in such a way as to cooperate in terms of mining these things? Because since the federal government is right there at the center in Abuja, it will probably be easier to collaborate commercially with the states to be able to do this. What's your take on that?
Well, exactly what we're doing. Like I said, the vice president, who's the chairman of the NEC, set up this committee is to work out all these modalities. Yes, the land use decree or act now, of course, vests the land in the state governors. But of course, mining, which of course falls in the exclusive list, take precedence, actually, because mining, we're trying to, of course, let the governors know as well. Mining itself enhances the land after you might have finished the mining process. Mind you, mining goes on. The mining lease we give normally is 25 years in the first instance, and of course could be extended for another 20. So you're talking of a total of about 45 years for mining. And then the land could be restored. The land, especially now, becomes richer for agriculture. So on a land that they've used for mining, if you go back to it to do agriculture, it's going to be very successful because you've turned the soil around and all that, and all the minerals come to the surface, and of course enriches your agriculture. So basically, what that committee that has been set up by NEC to do is to work out all these modalities. Of course, there are incentives for state governments that has been put in place. There is, of course, a 30% derivation. Whatever is realized as a royalty from any state, that state is entitled to 13% from that. That's the derivation. Also, the federal government is encouraging state government to participate in mining, not as the government itself, but through joint venture. They can form companies. Of course, a lot of states have done that. I think there's Omoluabi in Osun. Most of the states already have their own mining company. This mining company can approach my ministry just like any other company and of course, apply for licenses, for mining, for exploration and all that. So they could participate. We're not saying it's exclusive totally. They could participate, but not as a state government, but as a company or in partnership with other people, so the state can pass. And a lot of states are doing this. A lot of our states already have licenses. In Ondo, they have licenses on bitumen, in Kaduna, and all over the place. So the states are actually participating now. We just need to work out and agree on those gray areas, you know, where we overlap and then we rub each other wrongly. Work on that. That's what the committee is supposed to do. And then come up back to NEC, and of course, it could be adopted. So that's what we're working on, of course, to reduce the friction.
On a final note, coal to electricity. I'd like you to touch on that just before we round off. And when you say coal, Enugu comes to mind. So is that still in the works? I understand you want to improve by 30% during the past administration. So what's the state of coal to electricity at this moment?
Sincerely, coal to electricity is fantastic. And I think we got it wrong by getting out of it. It's even cheaper to generate electricity with coal than with gas. So, and we've got, more importantly, we've got coal all over the country. So we're not necessarily restricted. There's coal in Kogi, about 20-something states, about 23 states have coal that can use to generate power. And of course, there's a lot of clean technology. Like somebody was just telling me yesterday, it's one of the oldest technology in the world, coal to steam, which was used to power the train in those days. And of course, this can be used to generate electricity. It's the oldest technology. And of course, we can still do it. And we encourage people. Now we have some people who have the licenses. I know that a lot of factories, not naming names, in Kogi now use coal to fire their factories. So a lot of people are already using that, coal to electricity. But what we're trying to do is encourage investors to come and generate power for captive generation through coal. So we've got coal deposits everywhere. Now we have a company, I think they're in Kogi now. They want to generate powers, but they are actually targeting the miners around that area. Because mining itself is power intensive. You need a lot of power for your mining operations. So that company is generating power from coal, and of course it's targeting mining companies in those areas, and they can give them power. So coal to power it's something that federal government is very interested in. And of course, we are calling investors to come in. We've got a lot of coal deposit. And technology, like I said, is very old. But now we have the clean coal technology. So we don't have to worry about pollution. A lot of these European countries still use coal to generate power. So it's something we are working on.
Honorable Minister, we have to thank you very much for the time that you have spared to be with us this morning to shed light on what's happening in the Mines and Steel Development Ministry. We want to thank you very much for your time. Architect Olamilekan Adegbite, Honorable Minister of Mines and Steel Development. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.
We're back in a moment to take the conversation somewhere else. Please stay with us.